precise moment when they were all strung out, and he sensed he could defeat them in detail, he turned around, and the first attacking division was his brother-in-law's division, Sir Edward Pakenham, and the future Duke of Wellington, General Wellesley, said to him, "Ned, Adam," and he led a marvelous charge. So, New Orleans, Ned Pack, Major General by now, Ned Pakenham was not someone to be trifled with. He had troops who were not to be trifled with. But Andrew Jackson also was not to be trifled with. The British knew that Andrew Jackson's army was mostly not regulars. They didn't quite realize, though, that it was an experienced army, having finished the Creek War. They were in a good defensive position, and all poor Ned Pakenham could think to do. Did he think he was on an urgent timetable? I don't know. He had one plan for outflanking them, and when that plan failed, he seems to have thought all he could do
Was a frontal charge.
assault, and it was gruesome. Casualty ratio was good. British troops took 1,100 casualties.
These were not conscripts.
No, they were experienced. British did not conscript at this stage.
Okay.
Experienced troops, not, as some people have said, 3rd Battalion. So British practice was, at that time, a regiment would have 3 battalions. 2 battalions would be serving overseas in the war. 3rd Battalion was training at home and would only be deployed in emergencies, but they were not 3rd Battalions. They were experienced troops, but nothing in their experience prepared them for the intensity of fire and the, as you said, the accuracy of fire they'd get from the Americans. They attacked with sublime courage. Ned Pakenham died, but it was one of the great catastrophes in British military history. 1,100 casualties, and the Americans might have had 50. Good grief!
Oh, geez. Huh.
Wow. So it's on my mind because I'm reading a book about the War of 1812, a war that basically didn't go too well for the U.S.
No, it didn't.
Did not.
It's not a great show.
Complete with the burning of Washington, D.C., or much of Washington, D.C. But the Americans were able to think of it as a victory because of the battle that happened after the peace treaty had been signed.
They got in the last shot.
They got in the last
after the bell had actually rung.
After the bell had rung, they didn't know it. Battle of New Orleans.
We've been talking about the effects of, shall we call them grand personalities
Grand personalities.
on history.
Andrew Jackson comes to mind.
Uh-huh.
He seized control of American politics.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, teaching in a certain inner city, people can underestimate. They do underestimate what inner city kids can do with a good teacher. But back in 2016, my brother teaching history class and was talking about the era of Andrew Jackson. Very smart kid in the class, inner city kid. Back in 2016 or 2017, he said, Andrew Jackson reminds me of Donald Trump. And similar in some ways, obviously different historical circumstances, very different historical circumstances, but similar in that they imposed their will on American politics. And for a generation, American politics was about, are you for or against Andrew Jackson?
Even after he was out of office.
Even after he's out of office. Are you pursuing his heritage? Are you pursuing his legacy? Or are you against it?
Or are you trying to dismantle his legacy?
For a generation. For good and for ill.
Where do these men come from? It's not as if we know Andrew Jackson and all his brothers were the same way. It doesn't seem to be genetic.
No.
What is it?
Andrew Jackson, part of it was an intense fighting spirit.
Hmm.
Older brother died fighting the British in the Revolution.
Hmm.
And Andrew Jackson, young Andy Jackson, he's 11 or 12, he was crying. His mother said to him, "Men don't cry." "What do men do?" he asked. "Men fight." Part of it is some men, I mean, God help us, they don't necessarily want to endorse that. On the other hand, uh, the men who fight have a chance to get things done. But those of us who are more conflict averse, we never do.
May not accomplish something.
Yeah. You know, sometimes the men who fight just create conflicts one after another. They don't get things done. But on the other hand, they sometimes they create conflicts and do get things done.
Mm.
The people who Woodrow Wilson's perfectly asinine phrase when he was attempting to be neutral in the First World War. This perfectly neutral phrase was his perfectly asinine phrase, perfectly neutral too, was too proud to fight. That in effect means too proud to get anything done. So part of it is, to those of us who are conflict averse, we get deterred. We have a vision for what needs to be done, perhaps a well-founded one, but we sense resistance, we experience resistance, we back off, we compromise. There are some people who do not back off, do not compromise, and yet somehow, against reasonable odds, I mean, some of them are just failures, not written about in history, but some of them get things done against reasonable odds. They bend history.
Mm.
I'm convinced of that. That's one of the,
History bends around them.
I'm convinced of that. That's a long, old, tiresome dispute in historiography, the great man theory of history versus the long-term forces. Of course, I contend both are true. There is such a thing as long-term historical forces.
Yeah.
There's also such a thing as great men, women who bend history to themselves. Jonathan Sumption wrote his epic and epically long 5-volume history of the Hundred Years' War. And when it comes to Joan of Arc, he as almost says that one person made the difference. Long-term historical forces meant that Britain was very unlikely, that England, more precisely, England is very unlikely to rule out of France, very unlikely. France was much bigger and wealthier, but long-term historical forces suggested a partitioned France, a unified France with the English driven out and the Burgundians confined to the Netherlands and Burgundy. This is not an inevitable result, and it's inseparable from the revival of France and French spirit connected with that one person, Joan of Arc. And her effect, as soon as she rode into the city of Orleans, it can only be called electric.
Mm. There's a saying that cemeteries are full of indispensable people.
That's one of those yes and no things, isn't it?
What do you say to that?
That's one of those yes and no things.
That's what you said.
Yeah, the job continues.
Mm.
The ministry, the job, the position is bigger than the individual. There will be presidents after you. There will be popes after you. There will be whatever after you. That much is true. On the other hand, some people in that position do things that others in that position could not have done. 1978, the cardinals startlingly elected Karl Wojtyła, Archbishop of Krakow, as Pope. Startling thing, first non-Italian in a long time. From the Soviet sphere, Soviet-dominated Poland. Startling choice. He did things other men could not have done.
Because it wouldn't have occurred to them to go to Cuba, go to Poland. Is that what you have in mind?
Oh, his trip to Poland, just his election, that by itself changed things. I know
Mm-hmm.
one lady, she was a teenager in Krakow at the time, but she said in the streetcar the day after his election, you knew things had changed. Because in the streetcar, you'd look at all the people who were happy and the few people who weren't, and you thought, oh, how many there are of us and how few there are of them.
Mm-hmm.
And from that time on, communist regime in Poland was doomed. But then his decision to visit Poland, his insistence on visiting Poland. No, I'm not going to accept any diplomatic excuses. I'm not going to have a diplomatic illness. I am going to visit Poland. The Soviets told the Polish government, don't let him. The Polish government said, well, it's easy for you to say you don't live here. We cannot tell a Polish pope he can't come to Poland. We can't say that and then govern the country successfully.
Okay, so the Soviet-backed government of Poland knew we'll lose control of the people.
We'll lose control. Well, that was a horrible dilemma. We have lost control already. Question is, how badly do we want to lose control?
How fast will we have to beat the retreat?
Yes, the Soviets were so intimidated by the visit, they actually ordered Soviet troops in Poland to stay in barracks
Huh.
to avoid any incidents.
Ah.
The martial law dictator of Poland, Jaruzelski, said later on when he had his first meeting with John Paul, as soon as you walked into the room, his knees, Jaruzelski's knees, started shaking. He wasn't a big man at all, but there was it's a vague term. There was an aura to him. There was a vibe to him. There was a presence to him.
A force of personality?
Force of personality. And that makes a difference in history.
Hmm. Is it bestowed? Is it learned?
Ooh. Ooh. That's a huge question, isn't it?
I mean, let's take Joan of Arc, right? What in her education would suggest that she'd be capable of the things that she did?
That's a fascinating story. We know more about her than almost anyone in the 15th century. There are three processes. There was the process by which the court of the Dauphin, the future king, Charles VII, there was the process by which it assured itself that she was respectable and viable. So her past was looked into. There was the more detailed process that convicted her and condemned her. And then there's the even more detailed process initiated by her mother legally, probably under the patronage of the French crown. Rather moving that legally it was initiated by her mother. The more painstaking, extremely detailed process that interviewed everyone who'd ever known her who was now alive. Do you know more about Joan of Arc than anyone else? There's very little in her childhood background. 17-year-old peasant girl in rural France. Very little to suggest that she was about to shake a country. In her case, she believed she had a commission from heaven. The faith in which she was raised, but she was very loyal. She was in a trial. She was extremely indignant anytime anyone suggested that she was anything other than completely orthodox in her Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
Faith in which she was raised probably helped her believe that there is such a thing as a commission from heaven. But as the classic biography of Virginia Woodward from the 1930s, as that put it, once she had her commission from heaven, as she believed she was like an arrow fired from a bow. That's part of what makes people
No
extraordinary.
recalling her.
Yeah, no recalling. That's part of what makes these people so extraordinary. At some point, they believe they have a commission, a mission, and they will carry it out. Now, you can say that insane mental hospitals are full of people with that conviction. I can't say that, but the difference is some people have certain abilities that enable that conviction to bear fruit.
Hmm.
So Joan had that conviction, but she also had in her, was it innate? She had physical courage, physical fitness, that was important. She had never worn a suit of armor before, but she was able to ride and walk and run with a suit of armor, so she must have been physically fit. She had an extraordinary sense of mission, so much so that aristocratic ladies never saw in her any kind of sexual threat. She was not a sexual rival. It would be absurd to say that she was sexless. Nobody is, but they didn't perceive her as a sexual rival. That's not the vibe, that vague word again. She gave the impression of someone, Woodward's imagery again. She was shot from an arrow,
Hmm.
going straight to her goal.
She wasn't distracted by the other concerns
No,
of earthly life.
the young Duke of Alençon was completely devoted to her, and after her death, devoted to her memory. He said in camp, in the process of, in the very detailed process that ended in the repudiation of her trial, uh, he said that he never felt the slightest tremor of sexual attraction. And he tried to explain that. It's not that she was repulsive, it's just that she was different.
Hmm.
That's not what she was about.
Ah,
And what she was about was wonderful. It was it was the salvation of France. And there's no way I was going to get in the way of that.
right.
And what she was about was wonderful. Aggressiveness, the Battle of Patay as the English army retreated from Orleans. Intuitively, instinctively, she knew the right thing to do. And the commanders of the French army followed her. The right thing to do was attack before the English could set up their famous deployment of archers and men at arms. Don't give them time. Just keep attacking. That was her instinct. And it bore fruit at Patay. The English army that besieged Orleans in between the siege and the Battle of Patay disintegrated completely. Who could have done that? It's the most weird thing, utterly unexpected. And that is the thing about these figures in history. Always they're unexpected. Where the hell did this come from?
Hmm. No one would have looked to an obscure girl from an obscure French village to accomplish.
Exactly. No one.
No one.
Inconceivable.
And you would have not, and you would have been right not to
You
expect
would
that, right?
not expect that.
Right.
Right.
If you were to walk around 10 years before her advent upon the scene and say, oh, you know what I think is really going to accomplish a change in this war? I think it's going to take a 15-year-old girl from one of our obscure regions outside, well outside of Paris. That's what's going to, like, you would have been in the mental institution.
That's right.
Like that, that's absurd.
All of these figures are startlingly unexpected. Uh, we have
Miraculously unexpected.
believers would say that.
Believers would say that.
Uh, it's a challenge, of course, because the non-Christian figure of Muhammad was comparably unexpected.
Hmm. Right.
And certainly he's a figure who changed history.
Mm-hmm.
After his death, He unified the Arab tribes. No one had done that. No one had considered that possible. Uh, Byzantine, the Greco-Roman Empire had just finished its death grapple with the Persian Empire. And after a desperate struggle won. Things seemed very desperate struggle, by the way. It was the Persians who captured Jerusalem and destroyed the old church, the Holy Sepulchre, built by Constantine. Not Muslims. That was destroyed by the Persians. Byzantine empires, Byzantine, Greco-Roman Empire, prevailed. Epic struggle. Things were looking up. Nobody expected the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expected the Arab incursion.
Right, from a bunch of factious nomadic tribesmen who,
ferocious, everybody agreed,
but hardly united.
hardly united. And though ferocious, and many of them with military experience and Greco-Roman or Persian surface, but hardly organized. And yet, in a generation.
Is this the trouble with when figures like Peter Zeihan has these like long-reaching predictions about the war in Ukraine or the economic outcomes in Europe or the interchanges between the developing African and the European economy, all of these things? Is it because if you're such a type of scholar and you might even have a fairly comprehensive vision of the world as it is, you never, you tend to not be able to take into account these figures that come from nowhere?
Nowhere. Yes. Our long-term historical forces, the normal range of, lest we forget, who would have expected that the brief and apparently tragic career, except this weird thing happened on the third day from his death? Who would have expected that the brief and apparently tragic career of Jesus of Nazareth would be world transforming? That is one of the most epic shocks ever. It defies all it does. It defies all of the reason you could make about long-term historical forces and history having a high degree, has a certain degree,
Right.
but not a high degree
Hmm.
of predictability to it.
If you took a bureaucrat from the court of Diocletian, put him in a time machine, and threw him into history 250 years later, he would be like, "So what's going on with the empire?" And they would be like, "Oh, we're Christian now." Like, wait, what?
That's the legend of the seven sleepers of Ephesus. You know that legend?
No.
Entirely a legend, but that's precisely that legend. It's sort of the classic Rip Van Winkle tale,
Hmm.
which is much older than Rip Van Winkle, much older than Washington Irving. That there were Christians in Ephesus who'd escaped persecution in the time of Diocletian and Maximian, went into a cave, and a servant would occasionally bring them food. And they fell asleep in their cave. They woke up, sent the servant into Ephesus to buy food for them. But it was now 250 years later.
Ah.
And the servant was perplexed because there are crosses on all the gates of Ephesus.
Mm-hmm.
And there are all these buildings with crosses on them. And he tries to buy money with the old imperial coin from
250 years ago.
earlier. Merchants wonder what's going on. Eventually, the authorities seize him, and
They would have been, what would the language difference have been?
Greek.
Greek.
Still Greek.
Okay. So fundamentally understandable to each other.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible to him that the empire that had been trying to wipe out Christians 250 years earlier was now a very ostentatiously Christian empire.
What legend is that? How have I not heard this story?
Never heard the legend of the seven sleepers of Ephesus. Oh my. It's a little like, oh, less religious, but the classic German parable of the German who goes into the future in 1913 and comes back, and someone asks him, well, what are the fortunes of the Reich? And he says, well, in 1917, Germany, although fighting Britain, France, and Russia, will have defeated this coalition, knocked Russia out, and German armies will occupy Riga, and they'll be moving towards Kiev. And well then, by 2020, Germany must be mighty indeed. And he says, no, 2020, the German currency has collapsed. The easternmost territories of the Reich have been separated from it. The government is bankrupt. Defeat is total. French and British soldiers are occupying the west bank of the Rhine, and the currency is so collapsed that
Sorry, this is 1920.
1920
Right, okay.
is so collapsed that a wheelbarrow of groceries will not buy you breakfast. No,
A
wheelbarrow
barrel
of
of
money,
money.
a wheelbarrow of marks will not buy you breakfast. And there's incipient civil war. Oh, then by 1930, then he said, by 1941, Germany must be gone. He said, no, by 1941, German troops will have conquered France and occupied Paris. They will occupy Athens. They will dominate Italy. German troops will be on the edge of Moscow. They will have conquered the Baltic countries. They will control Kiev. Oh my. By 1950, Germany must rule the world. Well, no. By 1945, Germany will have been comprehensively defeated. It will be occupied by the Russians, the Germans, the Americans, and the French. The more eastern regions of the Reich will be cut off. The Germans who lived there will have been forcibly moved west, and they'll be replaced with other people. There'll be no German government whatsoever, and the German cities will all be blasted to bits. Well, that must truly be the end of Germany. Well, no. by, by 2000, by 2000, Germany will be reunified, smaller than it was before, but reunified with a stable government, and it'll be the wealthiest economy in Europe. You tell me about the long-term forces of history and how predictable they
And
are.
how predictable they are.
I've been fighting this for a long time. High school friend of mine, we clashed swords about this many times. As a science fiction fan, he liked reading Isaac Asimov.
Hmm.
Under
That's the Foundation series?
he forced me to read about forced me. It's not like you made me an arm bar. I can't break your arm unless you promise to read the Foundation series. But he impelled me to read the Foundation series. That's the premise
Sure.
that human behavior in mass is mathematically predictable if you have enough data and enough analysis. And I hate that and I repudiate it. And I don't think human history bears it out. There are long-term forces that do lend some predictability, but only some. There are other factors at work that defy this.
And what we've been talking about is this somewhat mysterious factor of some people just seem to be not maybe not born with it, but some people seem to take upon themselves a mission.
They turn things around. They are truly indispensable. I've been, around 4th of July, I always read 2 books about the American Revolution. So over the years, I've read a lot of books about the American Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how many books I read, I kept coming back to this. George Washington, indispensable. He held the revolution could only succeed because of the army. It's very important for American history and to some degree for the American personality that our independence was achieved through fighting and very hard fighting. It was achieved by the army. And the army was only held together against reasonable odds, was only held together by the person of George Washington.
Does
He
that
was also indispensable.
Does that mean he prevented desertions by people just being loyal to him, or are there also incidents of people wanting to desert and Washington riding up on his horse and saying, "Nope, you're going to stick it through"?
He was very reluctant ever to order capital punishment. He did sometimes,
Okay.
but very reluctant. But he did say discipline is the soul of an army.
Hmm.
But for him, it was a discipline. For his army, it was a discipline that he embodied.
Hmm.
That he was the hardest working. That he was present to the army and visiting when they were in encampment and struggling with lack of supplies. That he was present on the battlefield, not leading the charges, but knowing what's going on, somebody experiencing what's going on and taking risks. He, in his person, exemplified the discipline of the army in a way that nobody else could. And he had an aggressiveness. He learned to temper it, but he had aggressiveness. If we can, we will attack.
Hmm.
We are not going to let the British
Set the pace of the war.
pace of the war. If we can, we will attack. Sometimes other people persuaded him of better attacks than he had in mind. Famously at the end, with the arrival of French troops under General Rochambeau, Washington wanted to attack New York. And Rochambeau said, there's so many words. That's a 50-50 thing. There's this stupid British army in Virginia that has stuck its neck out. Let's go for that. Leave a covering force in New York. If we move quickly enough, we can be down in Virginia and nab them before the British in New York have a chance to react. And so it was. So other people could give him suggestions, and he knew a good suggestion when he heard one.
That was one of his key gifts, right?
It was great gifts. He knew a good suggestion when he heard one. But
And everything didn't have to be his idea.
Not have to be his idea, but he was convinced if we can, we will attack. And we will win. He conveyed that to his army.
We're here to win.
We're here to win.
We're not here to put on a good
We're
show.
not here to put on a good show. We're not here to put up a valiant fight and then make some sort of reasonable surrender. No, we are here to win, and we will win.
Hmm.
He convinced a whole army of this.
Mm-hmm.
Not through that army, a whole country. He was indispensable. And as long as we're on the
Without Washington, the revolution would have fizzled.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And as long as we're on the subject of his indispensability, I don't think, in my own opinion, right? I always hate to say that because who else's opinion? If I'm citing someone else's opinion, I'll say who it is. But in my opinion, Mexico never recovered from Miguel de Iturbide proclaiming himself Emperor of Mexico and using his army to do that. And after that, there followed military coups and civil wars. It was crucial for the launching of the United States in 1783, despite the stupidity of the Articles of Confederation, the inability of the government to have tax revenue, therefore the inability of the government to pay the army. And we only got through the war because of loans from France.
Mm-hmm.
Loans from France, which we weren't able to repay, and which helped bankrupt the French state and set up the French Revolution. Anyway, despite the stupidity and a certain amount of encouragement from some people who should have known better, Washington did not use his army to take power. He submitted to the Congress, disbanded the army, and went home. A lot of people thought he wouldn't do that.
Really? There were people who predicted that Washington would make a play for the monarchy
Oh, yes.
of the colonies.
Oh, yes. George III expected that. George III,
Why? Just because they recognized the force of his personality
force of his
and knew
personality,
that power is addictive.
it is addictive, and he had an army, a loyal army.
Hmm.
His army would follow him. That's so crucial. Uh,
Hmm.
the army was loyal to Washington,
Not to the
to
Congress,
the Congress.
not to the idea of the new
Definitely
nation.
not to the Congress. It was loyal to the new nation, but Washington was the embodiment of the new nation.
Hmm.
Washington, not Congress, was the embodiment of the new nation.
Right.
The army was loyal to Washington. At that crucial moment, Washington was loyal to the law. I think that made all the difference, or all the difference, huge difference in the launching of the United States. The George III expected that Washington would use his army to make himself the ruler of North America. Uh, George III is supposed to have said, if Washington simply disbands his army, he will be the greatest man of the age. And if he did say that, he spoke truly. An impressive age. Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, not figures to be trifled with.
No.
Washington was the Titan. He didn't have the ability with words that Jefferson had.
Okay.
Jefferson is a terrible public speaker, but he was a great writer.
Uh-huh.
When Washington wanted to write his farewell address, he had to do it with the help of Alexander Hamilton. He didn't have facility with words that Jefferson had. He didn't have the depth of knowledge that John Adams had. What did he have? He had an extraordinary character. That moment, geez, an indispensable character.
Hmm.
So rightly, in my view, rightly, the capital of the country is called Washington.
Washington. When do we see this cropping up in Washington's career? Was there anyone who observed him in his 20s and saying,
He was a little
that's
bit,
not a typical officer?
though it was noticeable right away.
Uh-huh.
Uh, press coverage of his British press coverage of his unfortunate campaign wasn't even a success. By puts it mildly, it was a debacle. His first campaign commanding Virginia troops against Fort Duquesne, disaster. But newspaper accounts, British newspaper accounts, praised his heroism and his calm. Significantly, although he led that force to defeat, his men didn't blame him for it. They believed that if he made a mistake, he made it in good faith, and he was a leader. He stayed calm while the bullets were flying,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and he showed us all that we can be calm
Ah.
while the bullets are flying. So right away, at the Battle of Monongahela, when Major General Braddock led his army into a French and Indian trap, and Braddock died bravely. At that moment, young Provincial Colonel George Washington was the highest ranking functioning officer in that British force. And he was a presence for calm. Horses shot under him, bullets flew through his coat. His hat never hit him. There it is again, though, that sense of mission that is so unnerving to normal people. Washington wasn't clear about what his mission was, but he firmly believed that he had a mission. He didn't like to use the word God. He would speak of providence,
Uh-huh.
but that providence had given him a mission and he was going to accomplish it. Therefore, he wasn't going to worry about getting shot.
How can us normies tap into this? It sounds special.
But it's special, but the Lord addresses this in the Sermon on the Mount. Not a sparrow falls from the sky without your heavenly Father willing it. You're worth more than a flock of sparrows. Every hair in your head has been numbered, so do not fear. Trust in divine providence. Do the work that's given you. Do it when things are going badly. Do it when things are going well. Do the work that's given you. You'll get through this. And you'll do well. Don't give up. Normies, the Black Death. So I like medieval things. I do like medieval things. It is startling to me that record keeping in medieval England continued through the Black Death. The government offices continued to function.
They continued to record the disaster.
Yes, a third of the people in the office must be dying, but the office continued. First time I read about that, I thought to myself, if enough people do that, you're going to get through any disaster. That's the normies. To have the conviction that your work is important, and if you keep doing it, even when things seem to be falling apart, if you keep doing it instead of running for the hills screaming, if you keep doing it, there's a good chance that we'll get through this.
Maybe not you, but maybe your children, maybe your friends.
You just keep showing up at the office if it comes down to that.
Right.
That's a huge thing sometimes.
Yeah.
Show up at the office.
Wow. Okay. What are your thoughts on why this is relatively rare? This sense of mission, this way of being, we're fired from a bow. What are these people tapping into? I looked at this in my thesis in college a little bit. It's like, well, you can't really say that Hannibal or Hitler or any number of other men throughout history.
Well, sense of mission doesn't have to be a benevolent one.
Right, right. That's exactly my point. Is but there's that seems to be a common thread.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I have a mission. I'm going to accomplish it. It's not always benevolent. It's formidable.
It's formidable. So
You do not put these people down. They don't stay down. Sam Houston, disgraced in Congress.
the second greatest comeback in U.S. political history.
Comeback. Disgraced in Congress. And he was so angry. Of course, he was also not entirely sober. Through much of his career, Sam Houston was not entirely sober. Beat up a congressman who had spoken insulting words about him on the floor of Congress. His political opponents decided the thing to do is crush him. We're going to bring him before Congress and we'll charge him with contempt of Congress. And this will finish him. And as Sam Houston put it later, if they had summoned me before a justice of the peace and fined me $20, that would have finished me. They gave me a stage.
They tried to make the coup de grace so remarkable.
Yes, but they gave him a stage. And he was someone to whom you did not give a stage.
If you wanted to win.
If you wanted to win, because he's better than you at this. That wasn't his training. He was a West Pointer. Second, or actually third lieutenant. They had that rank in those days. Third lieutenant, wounded, serving under Andrew Jackson, wounded at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend against the against the Creeks. Anyway, that wasn't his training, but he was naturally
theatrical
and good with words. So smart, good with words. He hired Francis Scott Key of Star Spangled Banner fame. He hired Francis Scott Key to be his defense attorney, his defense counsel, but it wasn't Francis Scott Key who gave the speech. Houston gave the speech. and it was a speech. Uh, and the theme of the speech was, this is America. Does an American have to accept the fact that if someone insults him on the floor of Congress, he has no recourse? Uh, they expanded that basic theme into a huge oration. The great actor, Junius Booth, whose little brother disgraced the family name later on. Great actor Junius Booth was in the audience, and Junius Booth stood up at the end of the speech and led the standing ovation. And after that standing ovation, the Speaker of the House said simply, "It is the will of Congress that you be censored. Accordingly, I censor you. Session dissolved." Restarted his career. He moved to Texas, but moved with a reputation. So naturally, when Texas found itself in war against Mexico, they picked him with his personality, often overlaid with an alcoholic haze. But they picked him with his formidable personality to command the Texan forces. And he commanded them with that sort of, I don't know what to call it, vision. We together, but led by me, we're going to win this war. It may not make sense, but we're going to win this war. Other people are being stupid. He was utterly disgusted with Fannin, who led his troops to entrapment and disaster at Goliad. He was not too fond of Travis digging in at the Alamo. I don't need you at the Alamo. Nonetheless, frustrated as he was with other Texan leaders, he was convinced we're going to win this war.
Hmm.
And he conveyed that conviction to the whole army. We are going to win. I'm not sure how.
Ah.
But when I see the opportunity, a little like Washington, when I see the opportunity, I'm going to attack. And famous at the Battle of San Jacinto, Santa Anna, who had left most of his army behind in his headlong chase, never expecting that after having run for so long, Sam Houston would turn around and attack him. Santa Anna was taking his siesta. His army was mostly taking its siesta. Sam Houston was not taking a siesta. And he led the Texan army in its long desired and overwhelmingly successful counterattack. That's some kind of thing. You cannot take these people down. They have an ability. I don't know how to put it. They
bounce back.
They bounce back.
They are Teflon. They have a layer of Teflon for discouragement and defeat.
They don't accept discouragement and defeat. Okay, lost this round. There's going to be another round.
There'll be another round. I'll be back.
I'll be back. I'll be back. Famously, as I said before, there are people who will hate me for this. But how can you deny it? That's the story of Donald Trump. He should have been finished, except he's not the type who gets finished.
Yeah, where was he in 2020?
Humiliated.
Yeah, bedraggled by the state of the country that he was leaving.
As he was leaving,
in the throes of
insurrection,
accused of
other things, under having endured 2 impeachment attempts,
embarrassed in the election,
embarrassed by the aftermath.
successfully impeached by the House.
No.
Okay, I'm trying to.
It was all very silly, but anyway.
Not even the House. Man, I could have sworn
utterly humiliated.
I could have sworn the House impeached him at one point, but
he should. Oh yeah, the House voted for it.
Right, but not the Senate.
Not the Senate.
Okay.
He should have been finished by any reasonable calculation. It's an astonishing thing that he wasn't. But again, one of those people, he's not. If you know these people, they cover a range, right? They're not all saints. But if you read about them in history, they all have this conviction that I'm not done until another power, whatever I call that power. Washington said providence. Other people say God. Julius Ceasar said Fortuna.
What would Hannibal have said?
Baal
Oh,
or Moloch. But I'm not finished until this higher power, whatever it is done with me.
releases me.
I'm not finished.
It's like the Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
I'm on a mission. I'm on a
Back to Virginia Woodward's description of Joan of Arc.
Hmm.
An arrow shot from a bow. I'm on a mission from God. I'm not going to be stopped. I'm on a mission from whoever.
And in a certain way, it's not up to me to be stopped. I can't stop. I was sent by another.
Can't stop.
Hmm.
I can't stop and have a normal life.
Hmm.
That's the other side of it.
That reminds me a lot of St. Paul.
Oh, yes.
St. Paul seems like he was one of those people, once he started going, there wasn't much stopping him.
Very much one of those people.
You had to chain him up. You had to imprison him. You had to stone him. And then you realize that doesn't work. So you're like, ah, crap. I got to kill him.
Got to kill him. And yet, after you kill him, people read his letters.
People read his letters for centuries.
For centuries, millennia. No, Fairpont is a very good example. He firmly believed he had a personal encounter with the risen Jesus. And after that, he had his mission directly from the risen Jesus. He's very clear about that in Galatians. I'm going to keep going. Nothing will stop me. I can be beaten repeatedly, stoned mostly to death more than once, imprisoned, shipwrecked.
So that's the thing. We don't have any, it seems to me, we don't have any glimmer of Paul saying, oh, what have I really gotten myself into here? Maybe I should go back to tent making, right? Like that. There's no glimmer of that in his letters.
No.
Right? I mean, how are these people immune to discouragement?
No. St. Paul describes the pressure he felt for the churches.
Mm-hmm.
He describes rather movingly to the Corinthians his feelings about them seemingly rejecting him. He talks about the thorn in his flesh.
Sure.
They're not immune
Okay.
from discouragement, but that discouragement is consistently overridden by that sense of commissioning, that sense of mission.
Ah,
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
I will keep going.
Yes. There's that great scene in Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis, in which the princess's counselor, this Greek philosopher, has counseled her against being intimidated by the priests of whatever religion Lewis sort of imagines for his fictional country in which the story takes place. But the princess is not ready for the force of conviction that these priests have. That she's been taught by this Greek philosopher that these men are charlatans and will wither in the face of reason. And so she goes in with a certain expectation and then is stunned to realize, oh no, they believe.
They believe, yes.
And that gives them a force of personality that far outstrips their short stature and advanced age and wizened features.
St. Paul explicitly says that he admits he's not impressive physically.
This is something, Willa Cather gets at this in Death Comes for the Archbishop. Yeah, Father Valiant, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the quite physically unimpressive, supposedly second fiddle, right? Yeah.
Some of them are. George Washington is physically impressive.
Mm-hmm.
But many of them aren't.
Mm.
It's not a primarily physical thing. Sam Adams once described Boston as the Christian Sparta. That's quite a thing to say. But that's part of the force of the American Revolution, particularly in the Massachusetts heartland. That religious conviction. I envision it as In college, I had to read all of the classic Enlightenment work, English, British Enlightenment, Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, Edward Gibbon. And it's very elegant. It's outrageously smug. Uh,
I understand history better than you.
I understand history better than you. And the Roman Empire is the greatest thing that ever existed. And sort of implicitly, the British Empire is the greatest thing that ever existed. I know that as a member of Parliament, Gibbon opposed the American Revolution. I was delighted to discover that in college because he must have been very discouraged by the success of that revolution, the failure of the empire. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. But I reacted so strongly to Edward Gibbon, Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, and its elegant smugness. I reacted so strongly to it that college faculty gifted me with, I still have it, gifted me with the full set of Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire.
Mm.
But I imagine 18th century Enlightenment British gentlemen confronting in Massachusetts, confronting something from the 17th century, confronting these stern Congregationalists who believed. And they could not comprehend it, and in the end could not defeat it. There's no substitute for that.
It's irrepressible.
It's irrepressible. It's an old story, right? It's a story of the early days of the church. You can persecute and keep it underground. The Romans never dreamt of being as savagely methodical in their persecution as the Japanese were. So the Japanese church was kept very much underground, and yet it wasn't annihilated. It survived under the most intense persecution imaginable. It survived. Yes, the power of belief, not always Christian belief. I mentioned the example of Islam. There's such a thing as secular belief.
Mm.
I think it tends to be weaker, but it's a real thing. And it can have some power.
Did Lenin have this?
Lenin had it in spades.
Ah.
Yeah.
Stalin was a little too cynical to have
Stalin
this.
was far too cynical.
Okay.
Lenin,
Stalin saw a train that he could get to the conductor's car. Yeah.
yes, he could be the man in charge.
Yes.
By his ability to go to all of the committee meetings.
Yes. What did they call him? Like Captain Iron Butt or something like the Iron Butt.
Sit in a chair in meeting after meeting after meeting. Was on all the committees.
Yes.
And that was his way to power, be on all the committees. He was a cynical operator. Lenin was the true believer, brutal, but believed. I think, my own opinion, is that phrase again, part of what bedeviled the United States in the Vietnam War is that we were dealing with an opposition that believed.
They could win.
And believed hard.
And winning for them was outlasting the Americans.
Exactly.
Right.
Sooner or later, you're going to go.
Right. Sooner or later, you're going to get sick of falling on our sticks buried under the jungle floor.
And you can kill a lot of us. There are a lot of us. There are an awful lot of us. Sooner or later, you're going to go. Yeah, the power of belief. Seen in the best of the Godfather movies.
Number 2?
Ooh, yes, number 2.
Number 2.
Best of them. 1 was good. 2 was brilliant. After that, let's not talk about it. But best of them, the scene where Michael Corleone tells his sinister comrades, including the thoroughly despicable Rothstein, but he tells them the Cuban rebels could win because they believe.
Ah.
government is cynical, and it's for what it can get out of it. These people believe. They may be deluded. I would say they were deluded.
Is it
college news editor of the student newspaper at Catholic University of America in the mid-1980s? We would routinely get propaganda material from Cuba. What did they think we were going to do with their propaganda material? But anyway, we'd routinely get propaganda material.
How are they sending it to you?
U.S. mail.
U.S. mail.
So we would
Like they can't open it.
Right.
we would routinely get propaganda material from the Cuban government. What they thought we were going to do with it is an interesting question. Little did they know they were almost all Republicans, but we would routinely get this material, and there was a slogan, "Hay que tener fe." Ooh, that's right. But faith in what? Any kind of faith gives you strength and courage and endurance for a while. Some kinds of faith last longer. Hay que tener fe, it's not a bad slogan. If you can get anything done even in this world. St. Paul was not seeking effects in this world, but certainly had effects in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Can get anything done even in this world? Hay que tener fe. You can't prove foundation style. You can't prove that this is the future. There's all the difference in the world between the intellectual absurdities of Marx. Inevitably, we're going to make the move to socialism because these are the forces of history, yakety yakety. There's all the difference in the world.
The proletariat are, of course, going to rise up out of a sense of general dissatisfaction and disenfranchisement with the Tsar.
Yes. Well, according to Orthodox Marxist theory, it wasn't going to happen in Russia. You had to have a proletariat, which meant an industrial proletariat, which is not fully developed in Russia. Orthodox Marxist theory predicted that the proletariat would get more and more alienated, and the alienation eventually produced revolution. In the advanced industrial countries, the proletariat did not tend to get more and more alienated. So the revolution happened in Russia, where, according to Marxist theory, that monumental collection of absurd claptrap, it was not supposed to happen. But Lenin believed. He wasn't a half-mad theorist trapped in the British Library. Can you tell I don't like Karl Marx? He wasn't a half-mad theorist trapped in the British Library. He was a half-mad but half-inspired activist who truly believed if there's a chance to launch a revolution in Russia,
we'll do it.
We'll do it.
And it won't be at the right time, and it won't be at the right moment, and there'll be 1,000 reasons not to. But we're going to do it.
We're going to do it.
We're going to do it anyway.
Anyway, and we'll win.
And it'll work.
There may be lots of corpses, but we will win. The same kind of that conviction.
Right. Damn the corpses, full speed ahead.
That was the Russian Revolution.
Of course there's going to be corpses.
Probably.
Right.
We will win. It's secular faith. I don't think it lasts as long. But it has a certain power. It's another way in which people can derive the ability to keep going when keeping going does not make immediate sense.
Is there connective tissue between Job and George Washington?
That's quite a thought.
Yeah. Father, just swing your mic a little bit more towards there. Yeah.
That's quite a thought. Job and George Washington. Oh, well, Job does keep going, doesn't he?
It's not really going. It's refusing to move in the very tempting direction that is laid out in front of him.
Yeah, it's refusing to give up.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't really move, does he?
He doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to.
Because he's where he should be.
That's
Everyone's telling him, you're not where you should be.
But he stays put.
Mm-hmm.
There's a connection.
Mm-hmm.
Washington was not an explicitly religious figure. As I said, he didn't like to say God. He'd speak of providence.
Mm-hmm.
But he took that idea of providence very seriously. Certainly, he took the military chaplaincy seriously. Which is interesting, given his ambiguous religious posture.
Okay.
Member of the Church of England, Protestant Episcopal Church, as it was rechristened, but not particularly practicing. But took military chaplaincy seriously. He had no doubt that for this, we're going to win this war, but for us to win it, the whole army has to be convinced, as I am, that we will win. Because Providence so ordains it. So if we keep going, we will win. It doesn't mean we don't have to be thoughtful.
But it also doesn't mean we have to be brilliant.
We don't even have to be brilliant. We have to be competent.
Right.
But if we're competent and determined and courageous, we will win. And he firmly believed that good chaplains had a role in instilling that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a large chaplain corps, but he took it seriously.
Huh. I think when you say that, I think you've told me in the past that he insisted that they have uniforms and a salary.
He didn't like the way the British did it. The British, in theory, every regiment had a chaplain. He thought there were too many chaplains. Fewer would work. Fewer but younger, fitter, and more military. So unlike the British at that point, later on it's different, but unlike the British at that point, last quarter of the 18th century, he wanted the chaplains to have a military uniform and have a military rank of captain.
Okay.
And receive the courtesies due the military rank of captain. And but younger and be paid as captains and be younger and fitter so they could be with the troops and help instill that conviction that the chaplain would say God is on our side. The word Washington was shy about using, but we will win if we're courageous and persistent and not stupid.
Right. We've all seen courageous and persistent in the service of stupid.
Yes. If we're courageous and persistent and not stupid, we will win. It's one of the minor marvels of the American Revolution, by the way. That minor marvel, but it's worth remarking on. That Washington was able to assemble a chaplain corps from a variety of denominations. And they all worked together, up to and including one Catholic chaplain. An impressive achievement. Small, like there were 20 chaplains.
Right.
But, impressive. The Army had to have that sense of mission. It doesn't exist for its own sake. Although it incarnates the American cause, but exists for the sake of the American cause.
We are the arm of the American cause.
The arm of the American cause.
Did Lee give the same sense to the Army of Virginia?
Oh, he did. That's part of what made it so very formidable. Other than the Army of Northern Virginia, I think it's hard to argue. You know, I've been reading about the Civil War since I was in second grade. I've heard a lot about the Civil War over the years. I find it very hard to argue that in general, Southern troops had any qualitative superiority over Northern troops. I think it's hard to argue. I reject that. However, Army of Northern Virginia was a special case. Yes, Army of Northern Virginia was a special case. And that specialness is inseparable from the personality of Robert Lee. Personality, character of Robert Lee.
Did he believe that they were going to win?
He did.
Do we know if there was a point in time when he lost that belief?
Yes. With the breaking of the siege of Petersburg and the fall of Richmond.
The fall of Richmond.
Yes. That had to be a shattering thing. That's the other side of the coin we haven't talked about. When someone has this conviction,
And it doesn't work.
it doesn't work. I haven't talked about that. That happens too.
Yeah, the fall of Richmond I've read about. Can you give us the cliff notes on the siege of Petersburg?
It was a preview of World War One. Two opposing sets of trenches, constant pressure from the larger Union forces, and eventually Lee was compelled to retreat.
So he was besieging Petersburg.
He was being besieged.
He was being besieged. Okay. And he had to abandon the city in which he was
Yes.
being
And
besieged.
therefore had to abandon Richmond's communications links.
Okay.
Richmond could not be held without Petersburg.
Okay. So he was being besieged in in Petersburg,
Yes.
while simultaneously Richmond was being threatened.
Right. And the fall of Petersburg meant
Richmond
fall
would
of Richmond.
Richmond would go next. So did he have to fight his way out of the siege? Like he had to break
He
out?
did, and never did break out.
Uh,
He was eventually cornered at Appomattox Courthouse.
okay. So his army got back into the field, but were never able to like maneuver in the field after that.
The Army of Northern Virginia never fell apart.
Okay.
It surrendered, but surrendered in an orderly way. Once his cause was defeated, Lee accepted that.
Mm-hmm.
That may have been his greatest moment. In some ways, he accepted that. He wasn't, once his faith in this cause was proven false, he didn't abandon his faith in an overarching providence,
Okay.
his incomprehensible providence. The Lord is up to something. He remained observant as an Episcopalian, remained observant, and he told his subordinates, some of them don't want to give up yet, wanted to resort to guerrilla warfare. Maybe in his finest moment, he said, no guerrilla warfare.
Because we are done.
We're done.
As in, guerrilla warfare can't accomplish the things
Exactly.
that we were originally fighting for, which was the independence of Virginia.
Yes.
And we can't accomplish that as guerrillas.
We can only ruin Virginia
Mm-hmm.
as guerrillas. Run to Mexico, try to do something from there. No. No, we're done.
Okay.
Somehow we were wrong. I can't explain it. I'm not going to try. Somehow we were wrong. Our business now is to go forward with trust in that providence, that divinity, that God who sees all things and cares for his creation. And he who says a Christian cares for us.
Have you ever toyed with, okay, what if Lee had run down to Mexico and attempted the greatest military comeback in American?
I think I call that possibly his greatest moment.
Okay.
We had a hard enough time. We did it badly. Got a very depressing book about Reconstruction after the Civil War. We did it very badly. We had a hard enough time then without that. The dose of guerrilla warfare, I think, would have made it completely impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It would have screwed up the country for generations.
Mm.
That may have been his greatest moment, to say the faith that I had was wrong. I still have a higher faith in God. I don't know what he's up to.
Because I really cared about this
I
one
really cared about this and I believed in it, believed hard. I don't know what
and accomplished things that someone else would not have been able to accomplish.
Exactly.
Like Lee pulled off some near miraculous
He did.
military feats.
He did. Accomplished astonishing things, me and my army, which is deeply loyal to him. Somehow we were wrong. I don't know what God is up to. He hasn't told me. He's up to something. So my faith in the Confederate cause is ruined, but I still have my faith in God.
Hmm.
He's up to something, even if I don't know what it is. Well, proof it is said, I can't vouch for this, but it is said there was an episode at communion time when Lee went up to receive communion, Protestant Episcopal communion, went up to kneel. Oddly, in the Catholic Church today, that's a confusing issue, but that's a controversial issue. But let's leave that aside. He went up to kneel for communion, and the story goes that a black man knelt next to him. There's a bit of a gasp in the congregation. It was an audacious thing to do. And Lee just knelt there quietly, received communion, didn't make a fuss, went back to his pew. Nothing more demonstrative than that. But if true, that was a powerful gesture in the 1860s.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that we're going on.
Mm-hmm.
The particular cause in which I believed, and believed hard, and served well, it failed. I don't know why, but it failed. That doesn't mean the world has come to an end.
Oof.
God is still in his heaven. That's a deeper level of faith that we haven't talked about yet.
But you could layer your inspirations. You could layer your causes.
Layer your causes.
Yeah.
To have a faith in God that's even stronger than your faith in a cause that you believe is God sent.
Whoa. Mm.
And yet it's failed.
Mm-hmm.
That happens too.
That's how monks can watch Vikings burn down their monasteries and not think, well, this is it.
Yes. Now there's a severe test. Got a very depressing book, which I will not reread. It's too depressing. But a very depressing scholarly book about the end of the Templars.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how about that? You put your faith in a religious order and the church under whatever complicated pressures, the church tells you that your religious order is done and suppressed under a cloud. Pope Clement V, wiggling desperately. The Council of Vienne, this is the main job of the council, to deal with the Templar problem. Wiggling desperately, he didn't condemn the Templars, he simply dissolved them.
Mm-hmm.
Which left the French king a little bit unhappy. Nonetheless, dissolved is dissolved. You would put your whole faith in religious order,
To make it your life.
make it your life. Now it's gone, dissolved by the church. To be able to say that God is up to something through all of this, and I'll persevere in serving God in his church. But America's first bishop, John Carroll, whose brother Charles signed the Declaration of Independence for Maryland. But John Carroll was a Jesuit. The Jesuits were suppressed in 1773. So as the American Revolution happened, that was something that John Carroll had to deal with. I put my faith in this religious order that has now been suppressed by the authority of the church. But I persevere. We're in the church. With the unexpected result, I get made the first bishop in a newly independent United States of America.
Right.
Who saw that coming?
Left field, ball play, every which way you look. Let's take a quick break.
No.
Let's rewind the clock a little farther. I want to talk about Scipio.
Publius Cornelius Scipio,
Ah,
later called Africanus.
he brought a similar energy to the table after Cannae.
Oh, Lord, yeah. I looked at an edition, 1911 version of Encyclopedia Britannica. 1911. Now, this is ironic. Talked about the Battle of Cannae, and it said that it's unlikely that there would ever be this kind of a military slaughter again, which is a funny thing to write in 1911. But yes, the carnage at Cannae almost defies belief, especially when you consider the carnage is all inflicted close up.
And in what, 12 hours?
12 hours, close up in a confined space. Close up, you thrust a sword to somebody's body right in front of you. Incredible catastrophe. And the story is, at that time, Publius Cornelius Scipio, whose father as consul had died in the war already. Publius Cornelius Scipio, as a military tribune, young officer, was with other young officers, refugees from the battle, and there was discussion about surrender or fleeing into exile and founding a new colony. And he, according to the story, he drew his bloody sword and said to them, "I will kill the next man who talks like that. We will keep fighting. Rome will keep fighting. Rome will win." Right after Cannae.
When at that point, Rome had no effective field army.
Right. Rome had no effective field army. It did have manpower reserves, but they were not yet mobilized or trained. They've got lots of young men left.
Okay.
Talked about that before.
That was Hannibal's
The
yeah.
genius of the Roman system.
Uh-huh.
Whereas the Greeks were extremely stingy with citizenship, the Spartans to an insane degree. The Romans, yeah, you were a slave. If your master frees you, you're a Roman citizen. Congratulations. They conquer a city. If you cooperate with us for long enough, you get to be Roman citizens. Congratulations. As a result, Sparta's military manpower pool declined steadily from a height of 6,000 to something like 1,500. Rome's military manpower pool, right? Not available and trained. Rome's military manpower pool with all of Italy behind it. 1 million, 1.2 million.
Numbers that were almost inconceivable to a general of the time.
Exactly.
Right.
No one had seen anything like this.
Yeah.
Not just an imperial power, but one that had citizenship so broad that citizens or quasi-citizens, people with Latin rights and allies, citizens or quasi-citizens, they could military manpower pool of 1.2 million. So it wasn't insane. Nonetheless, they had no field army. And they'd suffered not just the one disaster of Cannae, but defeat after defeat, including the one in which his father died.
Due mostly to Hannibal's true genius as
genius, yes, unquestionable, and his relationship with his army. Yeah, for Publius Cornelius Scipio to say in the aftermath of complete disaster, Rome, we will keep fighting. I'll kill the next person who talks about stopping the fight. We will keep fighting. Rome will keep fighting. Rome will win. And this is the unnerving thing. He was all of 21 years old or something like that. I'm going to make it happen. I have been selected by the gods, by fortune. I'm going to make it happen.
I can't do otherwise.
I can't do otherwise. That was Luther's famous line, wasn't it? Here I stand. I cannot do otherwise. Can't do otherwise. This is my mission, and I will accomplish it.
Did it take much to get the people around him on board? I mean, was he called crazy? Did anyone attempt to strip him of his command?
Future generations of Rome, at that time he was just a military tribune.
Mm-hmm.
Future generations of Romans were enduringly proud of Rome after Cannae. One of the consuls survived, and after the disaster, he did his best to rally some troops. And he rallied some, led them back to Rome.
Mm-hmm.
The Senate passed a resolution thanking him for not despairing of the Republic. A spectacular gesture, when Hannibal arrived outside Rome, the Senate sponsored an auction for the land in which Hannibal's army was encamped. It was a spectacular
PR and marketing
Yes.
existed even back then.
Yeah, even back then. So yeah, they're lastingly proud. There were enough men like Scipio, Publius Cornelius Scipio, enough men to say, Rome, we will keep fighting. Rome will keep fighting. Rome will win.
What was Hannibal's mistake? He didn't besiege Rome properly?
Oh, it's an ancient debate argued for 2,200 years. So we're not going to solve it tonight.
Ah,
That was a schoolboy exercise, a school exercise for later Roman school children. Compose a speech persuading Hannibal to attack Rome immediately.
it was a war game.
Yes, or compose a speech urging the imprudence of this. The reasons he didn't: sieges of large cities were historically very difficult. There were some moments in military history when offense had a temporary advantage over defense. But by and large, it's still true today, as you see in the unhappy story of Gaza, cities are hard to take. So siege is more normal. And it's rough on the besieger. Because you're in place, you're just sitting there. And while you're sitting there, you have to feed all your people and feed all your animals. Not only that, you have to deal with all the poop from your people and your animals. It's unhealthy. And then as you try to gather supplies, you have to send your foraging parties further and further afield to gather supplies. And the more you do that, the more vulnerable they are.
And the unhappier the countryside is that you're
Yes.
there
And the more willing to kill your foraging parties.
because they know that help is far away.
Yes.
And they don't want to give up their cows.
Exactly. So, yeah, sieges of big cities were huge undertakings in the ancient, medieval, early modern world, still are. Think of Stalingrad, or Leningrad, or Berlin. Yeah, grim anniversary, August 6, 1945. We dropped the atomic bomb partly because of what we experienced in Manila. Didn't want to go through that again. So, for reasons, Hannibal pulled back. He believed that he could win southern Italy to his side.
He thought he could win the PR battle.
Yes. Just the Roman unification of Italy, whilst accompanied by a broadly generous citizenship policy, was not gently done. There was resentment there.
People had gotten clobbered.
People had gotten clobbered. And that was remembered.
Mm-hmm.
In Rome's origins, there was the classic cowboy and the farmer can be friends, maybe. So the Romans were farmers. And they had a long battle against the cowboys of the hill country to make them submit to Rome. And the cowboys of the hill country were still not sure that they
Was the Roman yoke so permanent?
Yeah. So Hannibal was betting on that. Not totally crazy. The Greek cities of the south had been brought into the Roman system, partly voluntarily, partly by coercion. Hannibal was confident he could get some support there. It wasn't crazy. Above all, he thought that obviously Rome was going to negotiate now. Obviously. I destroyed 2 normal Roman armies, and I destroyed a 3rd supersized Roman army. course they're going to negotiate.
I've hit him really hard 3 times, and they haven't hit me back. Not
Not
really.
effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Of course they're going to negotiate. It shocked him, but the Roman response was, no, we're going to keep fighting.
And they made that clear to him
They made
by
that
by
clear.
by way of envoy.
By way of not even responding.
Ah,
Surely you're going to send envoys to negotiate peace. No envoys. There is hints. No, instead, the pattern of attacks on his forging parties increased. If a community in Italy, southern Italy, swore allegiance, broke from Rome, swore allegiance to Hannibal, as soon as Hannibal's main army was gone, a Roman force came out and clobbered it.
oh. So the Romans were fighting semi-guerrilla style.
Semi.
Okay.
Fabius Cunctator, Fabius the Delayer, who'd been in command before Cannae, and after Cannae was back in command. He didn't think that a big field battle with Hannibal would be successful.
He had a point
He
there.
had a point there, which everyone admitted after Cannae. But although a big field battle wouldn't be successful, we can make his presence in Italy miserable.
Mm-hmm.
We can raise a force to shadow his main army.
Mm-hmm.
And while one force is shadowing his main army, other Roman detachments can pick off his forgers, clobber any communities that have
Broken rank.
broken rank.
Whoa. This point of the shadow force was to just keep him just cautious enough.
Yes, he couldn't ignore the presence of a Roman field force.
Okay.
Even though it pulled back every time he moved toward it,
Uh-huh.
every time he moved away,
Started coming after him
coming
again.
after him again. And simultaneously, so daring. Again, you can't underestimate the importance of this manpower reserve.
Mm-hmm.
They also sent an army to Spain to
Okay.
destroy the Carthaginian presence there.
So they successfully raised 2 more armies.
And who commanded that army?
Scipio Africanus.
Publius Cornelius Scipio, later Africanus. Too young legally to command an army.
But this was no time to be picky.
It's no time to be picky.
Send them to Spain. So they went back over the mountains. Or did they go by boat?
By boat.
By boat. Okay.
Very odd thing. The Carthaginians never made him, and hardly ever made a major naval effort
Mm-hmm.
in the Second Punic War. Very strange.
Mm-hmm.
Because earlier that had been their thing. They were naval power.
Yep.
Crushed by the Romans in the First Punic War. Really didn't make naval efforts in the second.
Huh.
Very odd.
Yeah.
Publius Cornelius Scipio did his magic in Spain.
Which was what he also a bit guerrilla style in his campaign there, or
He was
no?
he was good at winning over the Spanish tribes.
Okay.
That ridiculous charisma of his.
Okay.
He's a bit unnerving because he seems genuinely to have believed that he had been picked by the gods. Other Romans didn't quite know what to make of him,
Hmm.
but his soldiers loved him. He gave them victory after victory. Sneaky at first, building power over time. To finally, the Carthaginian government made a gamble, epic gamble. Hannibal didn't have enough troops to win the war in Italy. He needed reinforcements. So they sent his brother from Spain to replicate Hannibal's march and move into Italy with a new army to reinforce Hannibal. But that meant that the remaining Carthaginian force in Spain was only going to try to hold off Publius Cornelius Scipio, and he was not going to be held off. He campaigned relentlessly, wiped it out simultaneously. the Romans discovered that Hannibal's brother had crossed the Alps and was moving into Italy. They had one army shadowing Hannibal, another army making life miserable for his foragers and smashing any communities like Capua, the biggest one, that were unwise enough to break from Rome and submit to Carthage. They heard that his brother Hasdrubal had crossed the Alps. They sent both consular armies to the north, which took a good deal of nerve.
So they stopped shadowing Hannibal's army.
They sent both to the north, and the two armies trapped Hasdrubal, the river Metaurus, and avenged Cannae as they wiped out the Carthaginian reinforcement.
Wiped it out.
Wiped it out. Killed Hasdrubal.
How did they pull that off? They just pinned him against a river?
Pinned him against the river.
Okay.
I didn't expect to be facing two consular armies. Hannibal had done that at Cannae, but Hannibal had a larger force.
Okay.
Hasdrubal was killed. The Romans chopped off his head and very courteously delivered it to Hannibal.
Jeez.
You thought your brother was going to bring you reinforcements. So sad.
Here's his head.
Hold up the head. Your brother says hello.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ancients didn't play softball.
They did not play softball. So at that point, Carthaginian cause was doomed. Publius Cornelius Scipio picked off the last Carthaginian resistance in Spain. Hannibal, they still didn't fight him in the field, but he was confined to southern Italy.
And at that point, he was marching around with what? 30,000 men?
Something like that.
30,000? Okay. So not exactly an easy force to keep fed and mobile.
Right. At that point, Publius Cornelius Scipio, not of legal age to be a consul or customary age to be a consul, said, elect me consul, and I'll take an army right to North Africa.
Like, we're going to go behind Hannibal's back.
Yep. We're going to go for the jugular. I'm going to grab Carthage by the neck. And once I grab Carthage by the neck, I'm not going to let go. We are going to win this war.
How old was Scipio?
He was like 21 at Cannae. So not even 21, 18 at Cannae. So when he gets this command, 12 years later, 11 years later, he's 29.
29. Do you know how old Hannibal was?
Older than that.
Okay.
Middle age.
Middle age.
By this time, he'd been campaigning for years.
So early 40s?
Early 40s.
Tired.
And starting to wear down. And amazingly, against the hesitation of the Senate, the Assembly, the Roman Assembly, Comitia Centuriata agreed. Publius Cornelius Scipio was elected consul, given an army, sent to North Africa. Carthaginians attempted to resist him, failed. So, epic event. It should be said that he made sure that veterans of Cannae were part of his army.
Ah. Refugees from Cannae were part of his army.
I was there. I was part of it. You were part of it. Our revenge is coming. I said at that moment, we'll keep fighting, and we did. I said at that moment, Rome will keep fighting, and it did. I said at that moment, Rome will win, and it will. And you and I are going to be in at the kill. Hannibal, government, Carthaginian government, desperately called him back to North Africa. It's the Battle of Zama, epic confrontation.
Hannibal would not have faced much resistance getting away from Italy.
He didn't.
Okay. Would he have sailed out of what? Modern day Naples?
No, that was Neapolis. Neapolis, the new city to the Greeks. No, his base was in the heel of Italy.
Okay.
Yeah, sailed to North Africa. Battle of Zama, Hannibal versus Publius Cornelius Scipio, the young upstart.
Right. Who's, yeah, accomplished more by 29 than some men do in their whole career.
By the time the battle happened, he was 30. Imagine that.
Yes.
Old man.
Old man.
He,
Veteran of many wars.
he had, through his alliance with the Numidians, again, his charisma, as well as the fact that it seemed that now Rome was winning. Maybe this is a good time to switch sides. It's the Numidians, who are famous for their cavalry. Numidians, what's now Algeria. Famous for their cavalry, they switch sides. Oh. Hannibal pulled off what he did at Cannae because he had cavalry superiority. Guess who has cavalry superiority now?
Wow.
So basically, Zama, long story short, was Cannae in reverse, with Hannibal the victim this time, and his army destroyed. Carthage's last army destroyed. But Publius Cornelius Scipio, to whom the Senate gave a new name,
Scipio Africanus.
Africanus, conqueror of Africa.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's all you can say. And he said it. He was very direct about it. After Cannae, I told you we would keep fighting, and we did.
Mm-hmm.
I told you that Rome would keep fighting, and Rome did. I told you that Rome would win, and Rome did.
And here we are,
And
winning.
here we are in at the kill.
Uh-huh. Was Hannibal killed at that battle?
Oh, Hannibal fled into exile. No, not right away, actually. He served.
He was killed in exile, wasn't he?
A little like committed suicide.
Ah.
Little Robert E. Lee style. At first, he thought he would help steer Carthage into this new age when its empire was gone, and it would never again enter any, except in a remote future, it would never be able to threaten Rome. Its empire was gone. It was beaten and humiliated. But the Romans, not Scipio, but the Senate so mistrusted him, and he had political enemies in Carthage, they eventually sent him into exile. He went to the court of King Antiochus, the Greco-Syrian king, Antiochus the Fourth. Anyway, the court of King Antiochus. The Romans were twitchy about Hannibal, and the Romans informed Antiochus, whom they had recently smashed in war. Yes, the Macedonian king, Philip, had made the crucial error of attempting to declare war on Rome when it was busy with Carthage. And the Romans regarded that not unnaturally as a stab in the back. And when they dealt with Carthage, they turned around and so.
Remember that time
that you thought we were going to lose? Surprise! And here's a Roman army to teach you the error of your ways. And the Macedonian phalanx that had been invincible for 2 centuries, or a century and a half. Yeah, a century and a half. The Macedonian phalanx failed before the Roman legion. King Antiochus was so disturbed by this complete overturning of the balance of power that he intervened before his pains got smashed by Rome too.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine that? I said they had a vast military manpower pool, but at the end of the Carthaginian War, at the end of the Second Punic War, they had a vast, experienced army who would fight a bitter war to a successful conclusion. And with this vast, experienced army, go another 50 years down the line, it'd be different. But that army at the end of the Second Punic War, no one in the known world was going to be able to handle it. The Roman Senate had an invincible instrument in its hands.
By dint of its long experience
Yes.
on multiple continents.
Yes. So they told Antiochus, we already beat you once. If you want to avoid any further trouble with us, deliver Hannibal over to us. And Hannibal committed suicide rather than fall into the hands of vengeful Rome. Because they had not forgotten Cannae.
How good one.
How good one.
Yeah. What a comeback.
Scipio was, what a comeback. That's absolutely right. It's one of the epic ones in all of history.
Yeah.
They come back to that idea of faith in this case. And certainly not a Christian faith. But how can you call it anything except faith? Not totally irrational. Rome had resources left. But still.
Still, you have had 3 of your field armies destroyed. Any men you have left are not formed into a trained fighting force.
Right.
The enemy is at your gate.
Mm-hmm. And to be able to say at that moment, we'll keep fighting. Rome will keep fighting. And Rome will win. To say that, the later generations of Romans were enduringly proud of that.
Yes.
More so than later generations of Britons are about the Battle of Britain. Because was much more dramatic, much more traumatic. Yeah, 2 field armies, 2 normal field armies, 1 supersized field army wiped out. Manpower reserves, but no trained troops to speak of, except refugees from the battle, were demoralized. Treasury empty, enemy at our gates, but still
the greatest general of his generation.
Greatest general of his generation at our gates with a veteran army, and still to say, we'll keep fighting. Rome will keep fighting. Rome will win. And Rome did.
Rome did. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit to another general who did some winning. So Julius Caesar is the wow, for tonight it'll have to be the last figure that I think we can dive into.
Very few things in history are more important than the expansion of Roman language and culture into Gaul. I do not believe that long-term force of history guaranteed this. I don't believe that at all. I think left to themselves, Gaul would have developed in one direction, certainly in contact with Rome, and influenced by Rome.
Yep.
But for Roman language and culture to go to the Rhine and to the Channel, huge, one of the central events in history, and one man did it.
More or less because he decided to.
More or less because he decided to. He was not commissioned by the Senate to do this. He was a brilliant man, self-confident, a brilliant man, not just brilliant, comprehensively gifted to an infuriating degree.
As in, what are we talking about? His rhetoric, his military mind, his charm.
A great writer, great speaker, a famous womanizer, a charmer of many men except those who are his political rivals, a man who could win over a crowd, including a crowd of tough soldiers, an athlete, ridiculously good looking. As he got older, he was bothered by his hair loss, And that was a subject of some humor in Rome.
His attempts to obscure it, perhaps.
Yes, he would attempt to. Well, yes, he had won very cold-bloodedly. Is there such a thing as cold-blooded heroism? He decided as a very young man that to get further in politics, he needed Rome's highest military decoration,
Hmm.
uh,
What was that called?
the civic crown,
The civic crown.
which meant a wreath on your head.
Aha.
And people know it took cold-bloodedly. I need to do something outrageously heroic. Therefore, he did something outrageously heroic. You could die, you might say. But again, that sense of mission. He firmly believed, I am Felix, lucky. Fortuna has chosen me for a destiny. I will fulfill that destiny. Nothing's going to stop me. I will fulfill that destiny. It made him hard to deal with. And for his peers, the crowd loved him. His peers had a different opinion. Cicero, we have Cicero's letters, many of Cicero's letters. Cicero didn't know what to make of him. Cicero was a smart enough man. He knew tremendous talent when he saw it.
Yep.
So he knew tremendous talent. But this man, what is he out for? And it was hard for him to believe. This man is out to be the greatest man in the world. That's hard to believe.
Once you articulate it, you think, really?
It's
Oh.
yeah, you articulate it. It sounds absurd.
Right.
He is out to be the greatest man in the world. He is said, while passing through an Alpine village, to have remarked he'd rather be the top man in that wretched village than the second man in Rome.
Ah. He didn't want to take orders
No,
from anybody.
anybody.
So we've talked.
Boy, people mocked him as a pretty boy. Yet those who knew him knew that underneath his extremely fashionable clothing were muscles of steel and a ridiculous level of fitness and dangerous skill with the sword, endless endurance. He's a fine swimmer and a good horseman. Hard to believe when someone's busy being a fashion plate most of the time.
Uh-huh.
A playboy, always running into debts.
Charming his way out of them.
Charming his way out of them. Divorced his wife Cornelia, despite his own outrageous sexual behavior. Divorced his wife Cornelia because there were suspicions about her. Daring to say that Caesar's wife must be above suspicion. Well, how about Caesar?
Right. Well, in Caesar's case, suspicion has nothing to do with it.
And that's right. There's no suspicion.
Right. We all know what you're up to.
Who would have thought that this character, so talented, with all those talents, who would have thought that on top of everything else, he was a military genius?
Ah.
Who would have thought?
Felix, indeed.
But on top of everything else, he was a military genius who decided, I'm going to conquer Gaul. Did the Senate tell him to conquer Gaul? No. There was one Gallic tribe making an incursion, so there was some justification for action, but not for setting out to conquer all of Gaul. Nonetheless, he set out to do it, and he did it. What a monumental task. Huge territory, full of warlike tribes. He did it. With brilliance. He was never a sadist. He didn't like killing. He didn't drive any jollies from killing people. He didn't do it unless he had to, but if he felt he had to.
You weren't going to talk him out of it?
You weren't going to talk him out of it. If he could be very generous to defeated enemies if he thought that they were unlikely to be a problem in the future.
Okay. If he thought they were going to fall in line.
Yes. But if he thought they're going to be a problem in the future,
off with their heads.
off with their heads. The conquest of Gaul was not a pleasant thing, but it was a decisive thing.
What was the Senate's role once they realized, oh, he's going for all of Gaul? Do they just let him run with
What
it?
do we do about this? That's
Yes.
an interesting question.
What do you do with a man you can't control?
We can't control him because his army worships him. Would you believe that? Someone up to that point had been thought of as a pretty boy playboy, was able to win intense loyalty from tough soldiers. Part of that was he was very attentive to detail. He made sure they were properly supplied. Everything was carefully planned.
I never had the sense that he was throwing them to the wolves.
That's right. They never had the sense that he was going to get them killed doing something stupid.
Uh-huh.
And when there was a serious problem, he showed up. He followed the rule of Roman generals, which was never be in the front line, because if you're busy in hand-to-hand combat, you're obviously not commanding your army. Never be in the you're too busy trying not to get killed. So never be in the front line, but don't be behind the rear. Don't be in the rear line, because you can't really sense the battle. You have to be in between, where there's danger. Their arrows, our javelins, maybe some enemy troops will see you and make a determined effort to take out the leader. There's danger. That's where you need to be. Not in the front line, not in the rear.
Hmm. It's like surfing, right?
Yeah.
You got to sort of be in tension
Be in tension
with the wave.
and relying on horseback to enable you to go through your army and visit different parts of it at different times. Get a sense of what's going on. See what many of you are doing well. Particularly notice the centurions. Read his commentaries. He particularly noticed the centurions. They're the key to the army. When you think about,
A centurion would have been the rough equivalent of a more like a master sergeant or more like a captain.
I have strong opinions about that.
Ah,
Uh,
I thought you did.
some older books under the influence of the British Army think of centurions as something like the British sergeant or sergeant major,
Mm-hmm.
more like a captain.
Okay.
But they were crucial for the success of the army because, I did successfully, I did not die. Did my 18 minutes of rolling today. Now, unarmed, not with armor and weapons. Darn, 18 minutes is a long time. So ancient battles must have happened in bursts because you couldn't keep that up
For hours on end.
for hours on end. They must have happened in bursts where the sides would come together, they'd clash. Maybe one
Slip
side,
through each other a bit.
yeah, maybe one side would run, and that's when heavy casualties happened.
Mm-hmm.
When you gave your back to the opponent. Uh, if not, they'd pull apart. The centurions are crucial for leading your men back in again. And at some point, that will wear down your enemy. They're still gasping for breath. Oh no,
They're coming back.
coming back. Not again. And you have this second bout and you pull apart. You're guessing more desperately for breath. Then after a few minutes, no, they're coming back. So the centurions are crucial for that. And you get a sense in his commentaries, he's careful to notice the centurions who did well and reward them. Which meant, of course, that he had to be close enough to see that.
Mm-hmm.
So he won the loyalty, certainly of his centurions, of whom he took good care, won the loyalty of his men, and demonstrated military genius. There's no other way to put it. What is that?
I've been curious about that for a long time. I think growing up, I thought it was like, oh, Napoleon saw the battlefield differently and he always came up with this amazing plan, or Hannibal just had this insight. Like I've wondered.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily the battle planning necessarily.
He believed in thorough planning,
Okay.
but it's the ability to see opportunities that normal people don't see.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, ooh, I see what we can do here. Normal people don't see it. The normal people, competent normal people, experienced normal people, end up losing against one of those, I don't know how to put it. I don't want to repeat geniuses, but one of those people has the ability to see the picture in a different way, an accurate way, but a different way than everybody else. And he could do that and inspire others to see something of what he saw. With sublime courage, never having any doubt, never apparently having any doubt that Fortuna or the goddess, did he seriously believe, as the Julian clan insisted, that they were descended from the goddess Venus? Did he think he was descended from Venus? Most historians are going to say no, but I'm not so sure. Let's see. Let's consider this. Julius might have said to himself, I'm outrageously good looking. Women find it irresistible. I must be descended from Venus. In addition to that, I'm smart, not just smart. You can't help but notice it if you have that. I don't think you can help noticing it. I think faster than other people. I notice things that they don't. I am different. So he firmly believed he was different. And he firmly believed he had a mission to be the greatest man in Rome. Did he serve Rome or Julius Caesar? Once I was in a plane coming over the Atlantic, sitting next to a young American officer, army officer, who was reading a biography of Julius Caesar, and rather touchingly, I thought, the young officer just closed the book in irritation and said it wasn't about Rome, it was about him. It was about both. What's good for Julius Caesar
Caesar is good for Rome.
is good for Rome.
Right. Should we even draw a distinction?
You wonder at some point.
Maybe that's why we start referring to ourselves in the third person.
And that is probably why he was killed.
Mm.
With all of his genius, he missed a central truth. No matter how good you are, undisguised one-man rule generates resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually resistance, eventually fatal resistance.
He was in his mid-40s when he was killed?
Late 40s.
Late 40s.
Imagine that. His grandnephew, Octavian Augustus, grandnephew and adopted heir, his grandnephew understood. Yeah, I'm going to be in charge. But there needs to be some sort of constitutional form for this.
Ah, everyone needs to feel as if they've got a slice of the pie.
Exactly.
And that I'm not keeping all the pie to myself.
Exactly.
Interesting. So Octavian had a genius that Octavian's genius suggested things to him that Julius never thought of.
Just didn't think of that. Cicero could recognize that the Republic was in dire straits. Who could not recognize that? Cicero could recognize that at that point the Republic needed a chief executive.
Mm-hmm.
Rector was his word. The two-consul system and the Senate had completely collapsed. There needed to be a chief executive. Julius Caesar had no hesitation saying, that's me. But he couldn't get beyond making himself dictator for life. Something more creative was required.
Huh.
And with all of his creativity as a military leader, creativity as a writer, as a speaker, he wasn't creative enough
To think, let's set up a system where everyone feels like they're in on it
Yes.
to some degree.
Yes. It's not just me.
Right. Disposing of the affairs of the empire as I see fit.
It's not just the imperator, the commander.
Mm-hmm.
Others have a role, subordinate role.
But a role that they can be happy with and proud of.
Oh, yes, Augustus. Octavian Augustus was very careful about that.
He wanted to set up a system where it's just not me delegating to cronies at my whim. It's something that if you can participate in a meritocracy to a degree, or aristocracy, and actually,
could still look forward to being consul.
Mm-hmm.
Consul definitely under the imperator.
Right. But something that had some meaning.
Exactly.
And you didn't just have to be a crony.
Not just a crony. That was it. When you look at it, Cicero picked up on this. I'm kind of a Cicero fan. Cicero picked up on this. Brilliant as Caesar was, the men he surrounded himself with were not high caliber. The cronies.
That's what Caesar's mistake was.
People who are not as brilliant as you are, but are gifted, they don't like being treated just as your underling.
Mm-hmm.
They will resist at some point. So even the very gifted leaders need some talent working with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that talent needs to be treated with respect.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be just cronies. So Cicero was killed at the behest of Mark Antony. Octavian Augustus went along with it, but
that was a diplomatic concession.
And he wanted him dead because of Cicero's speeches against him. And after Caesar's death, Mark Antony attempted to be Caesar's successor, and Cicero made brutal fun of him, comparing Caesar's gifts. Cicero did not trust him at all, but he knew
talent when he saw it.
Comparing Caesar's gifts with Mark Antony was comprehensively mediocre, except that he had very formidable thighs, of which he was highly proud. Kind of a bodybuilder type. But people noticed he always had a shorter than normal tunic. That people could admire his mighty thighs. That was Mark Antony, a dolt.
But a crony.
A dolt, a crony, a dolt, a handsome crony and dolt, but a crony and a dolt who was capable of being bewitched by the Queen of Egypt. What the hell? And Octavian Augustus took complete advantage of that in the competition between them. Notice, folks, I'm in Rome. I'm paying attention to Rome. Where is Mark Antony?
Vacationing in Egypt.
He's vacationing in Egypt. What is Mark Antony doing in Egypt? He is bedding the Egyptian queen. And let's see, it was illegal, but oh well, got a hold of Mark Antony's will. Let's look at to whom he leaves things in this will. Oh my, he's not leaving anything to Romans. He's become Egyptian.
Oh, was he leaving things like Cleopatra's children or?
Yes. She definitely had a son by Caesar.
Okay.
Mark Antony was willing to turn over portions of the East to her rule.
Mm-hmm.
He's an adult. Handsome dolt.
But she had him wrapped around her finger.
She had a relationship with Julius Ceasar, and he was not, and no one could wrap him around a finger, even Cleopatra, but she must have had considerable charm to have a relationship with Julius, who was, how shall I put this,
The greatest man on earth.
the greatest man on earth. Certainly, he was convinced of that.
Hmm.
And he had a case in terms of his massive array of talents. Talents that did not extend, though, to constitution making.
Yeah.
Bill needed something beyond, hey, I'm in charge.
In a certain way that appealed to his pragmatism, I'm sure,
Oh,
but
yes, keeps things simple.
sometimes simple isn't productive. Sometimes simple
Sometimes.
is not productive.
Well, you need procedures.
Hmm.
First of all, procedures keep you attentive to details, but also procedures help involve other people
Hmm.
who feel they have a meaningful role to play, and they're not just
No, there's due process for things.
yeah, they're not just your cronies.
Yeah, you can't just be swept aside by the whim of the
Don't attract
top man.
talent if you rely on cronies.
Hmm.
That's one good thing about movie stereotypes. The brilliant villain is always surrounded by low quality minions, clearly recruited from the lower end of the gene pool, and the shallow end of the gene pool. And
They arrived at the evil lair on the short bus.
yes, movie does that. The evil genius villain is surrounded by
There's an insight there, right?
quality minions, but there's an insight there. A truly great man attracts talent to serve with him. But if he's treating people like minions,
You're only going to be attracting people who are content to be minions.
exactly, you don't get the talents. It's very telling that Julius Caesar's best general in Gaul, Labienus, was a determined enemy of his in the civil wars. He was very tired of being treated as a minion.
Oh, okay. So he had a sort of a falling out.
Yes. Whereas Augustus Caesar received complete lifelong loyalty from Marcus Agrippa, who won his military things for him. Octavian Caesar was not a military type. He had cold-blooded courage too. He knew that as an aristocratic Roman, especially an aristocratic Roman who intends to end up in charge of Rome, he was going to have to go to war at some point. And that meant at some point he was going to have to be brave. So with great determination, he forced himself to go to war and to be in one serious battle. And then he could say,
Been there.
done there, done that.
This was Augustus.
Augustus.
Okay. He did not have a taste for fighting.
He did not.
Julius did.
Julius did.
Okay.
But Octavian Caesar was able to attract talent
Hmm.
and received lifelong devotion from a very talented general and admiral, Marcus Agrippa. That's because he treated Marcus Agrippa like a talented man,
Mm-hmm.
subordinate to him,
Yep.
but not a minion. Someone who's able to receive advice, give him advice, that'd be seriously listened to, and someone who was well rewarded. Julius Caesar understood the rewards to some degree, but he didn't understand the need for self-respect.
Ah.
That going to have quality people need to have self-respect. That means I need to speak to them respectfully. And sometimes I have to listen to them.
Sometimes I have to let them change my mind.
And I even have to let them change my mind.
And that's what Washington did well.
He did do that very well.
Okay.
I even have to let them change my mind.
Fascinating. So Julius Caesar's effect on history was the laying a infrastructure for Europe itself.
Yes. Crucial event that Gaul becomes Roman.
Mm-hmm. Which allowed Britain to become partially Roman.
Yeah, Germania to become partially Roman.
Okay.
Europe exists because of Julius Caesar.
Europe has a coherence and can actually be spoken of
Yes.
coherently, because ultimately you don't want to say the empire, the Roman way, right? Yes, it's spread through an empire, but the Roman infrastructure of so many things was spread along with it.
Deeper than just a political empire.
Yeah.
And enabling a political empire to last for a startlingly long amount of time.
Okay. And Gaul was crucial to that.
Yes, crucial.
Okay. So the West, right? What we refer to as the West.
Owes existence to Julius Caesar.
Owes Julius Caesar a thank you. Despite his indulgences.
Despite his many indulgences.
Shortcomings.
And despite his doing it just because
he wanted to. Wow.
Astonishing man.
Yeah.
After all these years.
Still, right. His
That's why I have 3 biographies of Julius Caesar.
Right. It's not just his fingerprints are in history, the impression of his will.
And to this day in the city of Rome, there's someone always arranges for there to be flowers at the site of his assassination.
Ah.
To this day, and this day is more than 2,000 years later. That's quite a record.
On the Ides of March?
Ides of March.
Yeah. Right. What secret society's in charge of that?
That's right.
Let's get him on the podcast. We'll interview him.
The Caesarians.
Yeah. Padre, we are out of time.
Call themselves the Caesarian section.
We didn't even get to all the things we were supposed to get to this evening. It does happen, but just means that we'll have to have you back for another informative episode. Yeah.
Fun.
Thank you again.